Good evening, and welcome. Welcome everybody to another live stream. Happy Thursday to you all. It is another night. We're right at the end of, I just realized we haven't got the right cord plugged in. 2 seconds. We're right at the end of the first half of 2023. It does feel we're back. Had the wrong cord plugged in. We're back. It does feel like we're at the start of the year, not too long ago. But of course, as we remember at the start of this year, there's a lot of uncertainty about markets, where things were going to go and how things were going to play out. And now we've got into the midst of what's shaping up to be a very exciting back half of the year. We just had some words yesterday from Jerome Powell about potential rate rises, the fact that we might get some consecutive rate rises. We've, of course, had the technology stocks leading the way throughout 2023, and there's been a lot of discussion about what that future will look like on that front. There's still relatively strong economic data if you have all things being equal, particularly in comparison to where things were potentially going to go. Of course, we know the earnings season, the earnings downgrades haven't come through at scale yet, though there's still uncertainty about what the back end of this year, is there going to be a cliff on that front, or will we continue to see resolute numbers? And there's just a lot of uncertainty about how earnings for this quarter is going to come through. Of course, we know that particularly on the ASX front, you're going to get your full year results for a lot of companies in August. Of course, you'll get your quarterlies and your half years in July as well. So a lot of eyes on that front. I'm very excited to know what your thoughts are. We'll talk about it all tonight. Happy Thursday. This is actually, I think, the first time I've worn a jumper in 900 plus videos. I was trying to think my mind back, and I think I wore a t-shirt in every single stream or video before that. So there's a bit of pop trivia for you. It's very, very cold in Melbourne right now. I'm not sure where you're tuning in from, but let us know how the temperature is. It is very, very chilly. We're right in the depths of winter right now. Kingfisher, evening. Welcome to everyone who's joining as well. If you're joining in, pop in, say good day, drop into the comments. If you haven't, make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. We're on Instagram. It's at ASX Investor IG. You can come and get all your daily stock market news there. Peter Timp, Weebit were questioned about Fred leaving. Yes, so Weebit Nano has had a very tumultuous past couple of days on the markets. So they went into, I can't remember when it was, they went into a trading halt, then a suspension. One of their directors were leaving, so they fell below the Australian or local requirement for number of board directors there. They went into suspension. They've now got a temporary director at this stage, or I guess interim director is the correct terminology there, who will be able to help. He's got a governance background. Share price did come off quite significantly. I think it was trading in around that $7 mark. And then, of course, the news, then the suspension happened. But before the suspension, there was around about like a 15 to 20% share price fall off. There was a price query, which they provided an explanation to from there. And then they came back onto markets today. And they actually had a fascinating announcement about qualification successfully ticked off from Skywater. That was one of the key announcements that they were hoping to get in before the end of first half 2023. Share price did come off. I think there was a bit of wording there surrounding discussions about the actual first customers. There was one or more customers that they're hoping to get for calendar year 2023. But of course, what does that mean in terms of timings? And that's kind of how that's all played out. Peter Tim, great day today. Latin Resources, LRS. Of course, the stock standard reminder as well, before we dive into it, I'm just a bloke on the internet who likes talking about markets. Obviously not a financial advisor, and nothing we talk about is financial advice. It's all just a general discussion. Hopefully, however, it's an interesting starting spot for you to do your own research from. So welcome. Latin Resources have been doing some drilling, a lot of digging, and they had some really strong announcements really over this past period, but we can pull some of those up. Let's presentation screen. How do we go? Share screen here. So Latin Resources today, have these been updated? 241% increase for Kalina. And then there was another announcement as well about the corridor. I can't remember exactly where that is, but pulling this one in here, we know they've got a few different projects there all throughout South America. But this one was the 20th of June. I'm not sure if they've added the one from today as well. 241% increase for the Kalina mineral resource. It wasn't long ago that they were trading below 20 cents. I think they closed today at maybe 28, maybe 29, or 33%. So they closed yesterday at 29 from memory, sorry. and then up to 33% today. Now they're closing in on that unicorn level, not far off the $800 million, the $1 billion market cap. They're in and around that $800 million market cap level now. And as we can see here, their MRE over 40 million tons at over 1.3%. So solid grade and significant amount of measured and indicated there. So they've got, nearly 2/3 there in that level. And there was another announcement that I did want to pull up on that front. But essentially, they've been drilling and digging, and there's been a lot going on that front. You can see here the Kalina. So that was for their Salinas lithium corridor. Oh, here we go. Here's the announcement I was looking for. This is the one. So this was the one that came out yesterday that propelled them to 29 cents. And a district scale lithium corridor was confirmed at Salinas, which gives them plenty more targets, plenty more opportunities to continue drilling and see what they find under there. But this, I think, attracted a lot of attention from investors. And as you can see here, some of the wording there from the company itself, Tony Greenway stated these are significant new discoveries by the Salinas exploration team, demonstrating their strong understanding of the regional controls to mineralization within their district. So they've got plenty of targets, and they're going to continue drilling out on that front. So making sure we got the right microphone plugged in as well. There we go. Shashai, how you going? Welcome. Mustache game is looking bullish. It's been a while actually. We're trying to work out if we're going to keep the mustache and the beard below it, or we're going to just keep the mustache. It's been growing out, so I'm going to work out what we're going to be doing from here. Let us know if you've got any thoughts on that front. Drop in a comment about what you've been watching on markets, where you think things are heading. Peter, hey, very cold in New South Wales, drinking hot chocolate. Fantastic. Cheap power as well. Yes, they've got the infrastructure that is necessary. So pull it up. I think what's interesting here is we're looking at the divergences of, so this is a NASDAQ. Obviously, NASDAQ's a tech-powered index here. And we've really seen some real strength. Markets more broadly had some really real strength from January outwards. But when you're looking in and around here, I think ChatGPT was released in November, was it? Back end of last year. But a lot of the excitement really from this period here has been propelling higher on the AI hype. Now, of course, NVIDIA has been the poster child for the sector. It hasn't been the only company that's been moving higher. But if you look at NVIDIA's share price here, they're above the $1 trillion market cap, 1.02. And they really have been that kind of leading light in the space. So over 1 year, 164% higher. Year to date, again, is higher than that because they actually were in and around there. As you can see, 187%. They've been one of the leading lights. But when you go back to the NASDAQ itself, you've got companies like Meta, which has been riding on that hype. Their large language model has been attracting a lot of attention, particularly in the research crowd, in the B2B space. You've obviously got companies like Microsoft who purchased their stake into ChatGPT's created OpenAI. You, of course, have Amazon, who's got a range of different AI-related products. Apple's been leading the index higher as well. And it is just interesting to note when you compare the NASDAQ itself. So as you can see, Apple here, I think they reset their all-time high last night. Yes, they did. So it was kind of that pullback over a couple of days here, but then it reset there. I don't know if it closed at the peak, not quite. So 189.8-ish was the peak, but it didn't quite close there, but it did reset its all-time high there. But I think what's interesting to think about when we're thinking about the trends on this front is how the NASDAQ's gone over the past year to date. So it's up 30%. And then obviously the S&P 500, which is a much broader based index. So it includes technology, and many of the technology names are the largest weightings on it. But if you look at it year to date there, it's about half of the gains. So what that's indicating is that there's a much narrower corridor of strength if you're thinking companies like your Apples, your NVIDIAs, which are leading it higher. And obviously when you have narrower breadth, it leads to the potential for exogenous shocks or external risks that may or may not have been considered that might put this market rally at risk if we do see some kind of weakening or some things up in the in that broader macroeconomic sphere. It's worth noting here as well. So if you see the S&P 500 equal weighted index, so what this is essentially referring to is this S&P 500 here. This is weighted for market capitalization. So if Apple's at $2 trillion, it's obviously going to be a bigger weighting, and it will contribute to larger scale moves to the upside and downside, depending on which way it goes, in comparison to the company that's 497th on the S&P 500, whether, it's a bank or a retail store or whatever that is. So even if that company moves up, let's say 5%, it's going to have a smaller overall influence on the S&P 500's move than Apple moving up 2 or 3%, if that makes sense. So what is interesting and what investors often look at is the equal weight index. So remembering the numbers, the NASDAQ was up by 30%, year to date. S&P 500 itself, when weighted for market capitalization, was up for 14%. And then when you look here, so this is the S&P 500. It's a 1 year. So the S&P 500 here on the year-to-date scale is only up 4%. So what that's saying is that underneath the hood, when you're not waiting it for all of these big tech names that have been soaring in the first half, when you're just looking at all of the 500 companies with an equal contribution to the index itself, we're up for the year, which is a positive from where we started. And you guys will remember the back end of last year it wasn't horrid, but there was a lot of uncertainty and fear. And we even did miss that Santa rally. There was questions about, are we going to see it? Is it going to come through? But what this is saying is, even though we've had a good start to the year, 4.1%, we are significantly being led higher by those individual technology names. And now when we're looking at, Jesse Parker, g'day, Love and Ladden, up 663%, not bad. On your way to a 10-bagger, mate. We'll see if you get there, break the $1 mark. Closing at 33 cents is very, very strong. That's reset its all-time high overnight again. News saying how everyone is spending up big. Would like to think the RBA will hold off this time, but guess we'll see. So talking on that front, RBA is obviously the Reserve Bank of Australia. So we can have a look here at some of the numbers that came out on the Australian inflation front. Having a look here. So this is a lot of news. Let's just have a look at an individual article that we're able to see. So this is the monthly measure of inflation, which came out yesterday. Obviously, we get monthly measures, and there was a significant downturn actually in terms of what was anticipated from where we were. So there was questions about, okay, are we going to continue to see strength? Obviously, the RBA raised the last time as well. Is this a quarterly monthly CPI indicator? That's the one there. So as we can see here, it fell from 6.8%. Which was its local peak, reset its kind of peak from the February levels, and fell down to 5.6%. Now, one of the key drivers for that was fuel costs coming down quite significantly. Obviously, fuel is a major input into inflationary pressures throughout the economy, because if you think about things such as your logistics, if your packages to get delivered are going to be more expensive, your fuel costs for actually running your businesses. I know that was mentioned up above, Peter, cheap power for processing in the future. That's another input that you need to consider. Fuel costs came down, and that was a big driver of inflation falling off. So now the question is, will that give the RBA room to pause, room to hold and just wait and see and assess? That's a question. That's what everyone's going to be looking for. Areem, US inflation down to 4%. Hey, how you going? So having a look at numbers here as well. What's a better chart than that? It's probably not the best chart. Here we go. This might be a better chart there. This gives us the actual trajectory of that. So we can see here, this is just the 1 year there. 5 years is always interesting, so you can actually look at trends. And obviously, atypical, significant uplift there. That was the peak in and around this period. And now we've been on a steady trajectory down. But looking at the 1 year, you can see it's almost been steady step climbs down. Every single one has actually gone. Did we reset? No, that was the closest one there. So every single one's been trending downwards. But this has to now be coupled with with the central bank governor, the Federal Reserve Central Bank Governor Jerome Powell's speech overnight. Jerome Powell's been speaking a lot recently. And so bear in mind here, numbers here, 4%, as Areem's mentioned, for US inflation. But it was an interesting speech overnight about what he was able to say. So having a look here, speech by Chairman Powell. So he spoke at an ECB conference, so the European Central Bank Conference. There's a lot of wording here, but what I think is most important here is this. So to pull this out, inflation remains well above their longer run goal of 2%. So obviously we know that the discussion, they want in the 2 to 3% band sustainably, but their longer run goal is to get to 2%. As you can see here, a lot of discussion. PCE is their preferred measure of inflation. So CPI indicator is often what, most of the news publications report on, and it's what most people are looking at, the CPI indicator. But PCE, the personal consumption there, is what the Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve, like to use. And as you can see here, it's still well and truly above that 4% band for the core prices. And so they believe that there's still a long way to go to get inflation back down to the 2% level. They've raised their policy rate significantly. We know we're above that 5% level there. But what was fascinating was he gave some timelines. And the timeline was they don't anticipate that they're going to be back at that 2% level before 2025 or from 2 years from now. And they said that the closer you get towards that 2% level, the easier it is, I guess, to make the assumption that maybe we're closer to a balance or more of an equilibrium. But until we get there, things are going to be volatile, and we're going to see jumpiness and noise in the data, and they're going to be forced to make difficult decisions. And so that was kind of some of the insight that they provided overnight, or Jerome Powell provided on behalf of the Federal Reserve overnight. End of year sale, lots of good opportunities. Obviously, with tax loss selling, things are volatile, things are moving, particularly companies that have gone off significantly over the past 12 months, often investors look to move around their portfolio. So yeah, things sometimes open up, which is always an interesting time. Shanti, good evening, good evening. Hope you're going well. Peter, congratulations, 400%. So down at 190, then bought back in. Emoji, patience, H2O. Thank you, Shanti. Loving the emojis there. Richard, evening. How you going? Thinking the RBA will go another 0.25% as retail unemployment is low. That's the thing. They're really looking for the job market to provide that squeeze. Once they see the job market starting to provide that squeeze upwards, and hey, if unemployment starts creeping up, they're going to use that as a signal that maybe we're getting close, or maybe things are starting to break, or the cracks might be beginning to flow through the system. But it's still low, as Richard's in kind of implied here. Hey, Richard, Peter saying g'day. Wage growth will bring on wage price spiral 2025 until down to 2 to 3% band. The RBA will raise. Do you think we'll see a pause before there? I forgot my drink bottle. I actually don't have my drink bottle. I can't actually have any H2O tonight, unfortunately. Thank you for the reminder. I'm going to have a big one post this, because I am very, very thirsty. Ratio, happy Thursday. All this AI becoming so crucial in medical companies standing out, in your opinion? Cheers. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, to answer your question, there's going to be loads and loads and loads and loads. But I do think that, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week. Firstly, for everyone who's joining us, welcome. If you haven't yet, make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. Hit that button. We're on Instagram now. It's at ASX Investor IG. You can come find all of your daily stock market content and news there. Pinned comment at the top. We're also on your LinkedIn, your TikToks, and all of your favorite places to get your content. But Instagram's where we're posting the majority of it. So welcome. Back to Ratio's question. I think we talked a little bit about it last week, that a lot of investors are diving into or searching for or seeking out the pure play AI companies. And, those that can provide that specific spin on who's rolling out the hot new AI technology in the medical space. But I think the enablers of companies to use AI more efficiently and effectively can be just as interesting to look at. I think we used the example last week of Palantir as a company that's doing that now, not only in the medical space, but they've got a relatively sector agnostic technology. But a few other companies that are interesting and providing that enablement type of technology, as an example of companies that are fascinating, are UiPath. So they do like robotic process automation. They help to automate a lot of your processes online and with your technology in your day-to-days. And another one, C3.ai. So these are the types of companies that I think can help to provide uplift to productivity and efficiency for companies in the medical space or any other spaces as well. And I think when you're looking at picks and shovels businesses, sometimes the shovels itself earlier on and more upstream in the supply chain or the process flow can be just as fascinating. So that's how I've been looking at the space. You look at a company like NVIDIA, they're not, at the end kind of space, delivering the AI on chip and on device, but they're helping to facilitate a lot of the artificial intelligence algorithms and things like that at the data center level. So it's not always who were the pure plays, but often who are the enablers as well that's worth thinking about. Peter, still here. Starlink IPO, interesting. I did see SpaceX, I think we're looking to raise, was it $150 billion, something like that? Yeah, SpaceX put out a tender offer for insiders to sell their shares, and it's valued in and around that $150 billion level. Starlink IPO, I don't know what's happening with that. Elon's got more than enough things to do to keep him busy, as we all know. And obviously Twitter's taking up a lot of his time. X Group, or the X company, and that total, everything app. I'm sure he's doing a lot of thinking there. Tesla's still ticking along. Who knows? If he's got time to roll out an IPO, all power to him as well. Need to be 5.25% Australian tame inflation. That's a couple more interest rate hikes as well. That's not just one or two there. So that'll be significant. And I think you look at the household debt levels and the stress already on homeowners, and anecdotally, when you talk to people around you, people are already feeling it at the hip pocket. 5.25, that would be an uplift there. No pause in RBA rates, as Governor Phil Lowe will do the raising before he leaves in September. They want to leave a legacy, and obviously they want to make sure that the legacy they leave is a positive one. So that is something to consider there. No H2O early night tonight. No H2O tonight. Hey, mate, how are you? Going well, mate. How are you going, Lachlan? Opinion on copper in the future. Some stocks you should look into. There's a lot. I mean, on the ASX front, there are a lot of copper players, all the way up from your big producers. And even if you want to look within your big conglomerates, like your BHPs and things like that, they've got significant copper projects, all the way down to early exploration. Copper is fascinating because obviously it's needed in the here and now for all of the products and goods that we need to just keep the economy going and produce and manufacture to do that. But it's also future focused as well when you think about all of the electrification, decarbonization, and a lot of those technologies and infrastructure that will need to be set up. SLM has been an excellent trade. Chemist Warehouse to list shortly. When is that IPO? Chemist Warehouse IPO. I don't know. Did we have a date confirmed for it? I haven't seen if we've got a specific date. If you've seen it, Richard, let us know. Let us know. Lake, yeah, I know Lake, since they downgraded their production scale. So obviously they were at 25K, went to 50K, back down to 25K for lithium carbonate. Share price has come off quite significantly. Looking at it here, it's back to the 30 cent level now. So looking at it, just pulling up the 5-yearly chart, essentially that's back to mid-June 2021. So it's gone all the way up to $2-ish, now back down to there. It's going to be very fascinating to kind of see where things head from there. Particularly, they have extended out their timelines a little bit now. So as I do get into, the nuts and bolts and really pushing through that development timeline, seeing how things emerge. Elon Fight Club, yeah, it's been an interesting one. Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg. We actually made a video on that not too far ago. I think it was like 3 nights ago on the Instagram. We got that up with a reel. I don't know who's going to win. If I had to bet money on it, I think Mark Zuckerberg, just due to his jiu-jitsu background. Obviously, if it's in the octagon and MMA rules, but Elon's a lot bigger than him. It's not. I think it's about 10 kilograms, so you're probably 2-ish weight classes apart. But yeah, I mean, if they're doing it, I'll be watching. I've heard discussions about the fact that it might be at UFC 300. Imagine a McGregor and Chandler, John Jones bout, and then something like an Elon versus Zuckerberg. It'd probably be the biggest pay-per-view card in history. Been for a swim lately. I haven't actually been swimming that much. I've actually just got into MMA myself. So I've been training Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and wrestling. Been really enjoying just the learning. Anyone who's trained Jiu-Jitsu before knows how fascinating it is, the fact that you can always learn. There's so many different avenues, and you are always a beginner in it, but particularly when you are a beginner at it, you're significantly a beginner. So yeah, it's been interesting. But no, I've been loving the MMA. I haven't been swimming all that much, but I do need to get the cardio back up. 6 down now for 357. I saw Steve Smith made runs. Has Steve Smith made his century? Did he go out before making his century? Keep us updated. VRX and BNL for chip manufacturing. Give us kind of the quick elevator pitch on those ones there, Peter. BRN and Novonix will buy now. Have been excellent trades. Yeah, BrainChip's back below the 35-cent level. I don't know if it's poked its head below 30. I don't think it's had a 2-handle in front of it. I know it's down to like 32-ish for a bit. Novonix is holding below that $1 mark. I think it did poke above that $1 mark with LG news a couple of weeks ago, but now it's pulled back below that. Wonder when BRN will bottom out there. Yeah, I think investors are just waiting for news on that front. Revenue licenses. That's what they're waiting for kind of the timelines to arrive, essentially. This was ASX. Any news? No major news, mate. Life's been good. We've been focusing on Mobilize. Mobilize, we've actually also just released out these hoodies. This is the first of our merch line. So this is print number 1, but we're going to be releasing the merch for it in the not too distant future, which has been cool. It's been fascinating to see. Not yet, still batting. Interesting. He had a really good start to his innings actually yesterday as well. It came out all guns firing. Nice little platform. If they can make 400 there, hope to get there before lunch is going to be difficult, but after lunch and then have a bit of a session in the Arvo to see if they can make any inroads into England there. It'll be interesting to see. Alrighty, guys, make sure you subscribed, turn your bell notifications on as well. As we mentioned at the top, I'm on Instagram at ASX Investor IG. Come say good day. I've got an 8:30 meeting tonight, so I am going to jump off now. About time, Magnus. Have till tomorrow to secure a facility as per Tesla deal. It's always interesting at the end of the financial year or end of quarters, really. Companies look to rush out news flow if and when they can. So let's see what type of news flow different companies have. It's not only Magnus, there's heaps of them out there. So yeah, it's often a busy day on the announcement front for companies at the back end of the quarters. Just don't, Liam, hey. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to jump onto this meeting. Subscribe, bell notifications on. Come say good day on the Instagram. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Really enjoying the live streams. It's always a pleasure, and it's great seeing some familiar faces as well when there's so much excitement. I think the blue light just went off in the background there too. Liam, just don't see anyone caring about news around stocks, small caps, and people having these own battles with interest rates. That's right. There's a lot less disposable income, a lot more focus on actual just cost of living and economic stuff. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The times are not the same as they were in 2018 or 2020, 2021, if you want, a very hyperbolic type example there too. Have a fantastic night, guys. Big thanks for joining us. For now, stay well and happy investing.